We're a pretty eclectic group this morning, aren't we?
Yes.
It's now afternoon.
Well, here is one afternoon in Brazil.
Yeah. Brazil's the same as Canada. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're swinging towards the evening in London, so.
It's tea time, right, Hasu?
Well, it's 5 p.m.
Yeah.
Just past high tea. As I say in our ritual, what time is it past high time? So we have a new name, Brother Israel Faroudi. Welcome.
And thank you so very much. I am from Bolivia. I am Master Mason from the Great Lodge of Bolivia.
Welcome to our group.
Thank you.
Walter will be joining a little bit late. He's on medical checkup or something, so.
And we have got Scotland.
Send an email.
Hello, Ian. Welcome, mate.
Hi, Hasu. Hi, David. Hi, Al.
Hello, Jan.
And Andre as well. Welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And Malta. We got Malta now as well.
Hello.
Stephen, how are you? Good to see you.
Fine, thank you. Good to see you too.
Welcome, Quadro. Good to see you. Oh,
Good to see you. How are you doing?
yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Great.
Barnabas, welcome. Okay. 5 minutes past the hour, and first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone. I'm going to start recording this event, this presentation, which will also be available in the future as a recording on YouTube. Firstly, welcome to everyone, and most special welcome to our brother Marcelo Del Debbio for this afternoon. Thank you for sparing the time and coming along and educating us into new fields and new ideas and new topics. We appreciate that. But the subject matter today is the tree of life and the gods of all mythologies. In continuation of the series of public lectures, we have the honor to host Brother Marcelo Del Debbio, who was born in Sao Paulo, Brazil, on September 9, 1974. He is a Master Mason affiliated with the Knights of Baalbek, Lodge number 4024 of the Grand Orient of Brazil, a worshipful Master of the Arcanorium Lodge number from 2014 to 2015, member of Royal Arch Mason, Master of the Mark, Royal Arch Mariner, Knights Templar, member of the Preceptory Madras number 22. He was Grand Marshal of the Temple Order in Brazil in the period 2011 to 2012. He's a Knight of the Order of Malta, member of the Madras Priority 22, a member of the Baral de Maua Lodge of Perfection. He is 18 degrees in the AASR, the Advisory Board of the Madras Chapter of the Timolé Order from 2010 to 2012, an honorary member of the Priory of Protected Princes of Santa Cruz de Calvecha of the state of Espírito Santo in Brazil, a frater of the ancient and mystical order Rosicrucis, Amor, a member of the Sociedade de sorry, my apologies for the pronunciation, Antigua, Society of Ancient Sciences, a member of the traditional Martinist order, and a member of the Collegio of Mages, a member of the Arcanorium. Brother Del Debbio was Magister Templar of the order in 2010-2014. He currently holds the position of Secretary of Ritualistics and Study for the Order in Brazil. He is a co-founder of the podcast project Mayhem, a publisher and founder of the Daemon Editorial Publisher Company and the author of the role-play game RPG Quest. Architect by the University of Sao Paulo, novelist, well-known RPG writer and occultist, Brother Marcelo Del Debbio has written and published over 40 books about Hermeticism, Tara, the Kabbalah, and many other topics. One of Brother Del Debbio's most prominent productions is the Encyclopedia of Mythology, reference work in comparative mythology with more than 8,500 entries from 110 different mythologies. That's the introduction. Apologies if I got a few bits wrong in my pronunciation, but Brother Marcel, welcome to this forum. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Hasu. Thank you so much, brothers, for hearing me, and greetings from Brazil. Well, I will be saying some things about the Tree of Life, that for me is one of the most magnificent and marvelous structures in the mythology and spirituality. And I will share screen with you, so it will make it easier for you to understand. Can you see picture? You can see my mouse. All right. So this structure is called the Tree of Life, and it is it's mostly known in Hebrew Kabbalah, but it's present in all mythologies and all religions around the world, and also in Freemasonry. It's the base of alchemy and the base of Rosicross, the base of Freemasonry. It is it consists of 10 spheres. It's called Sephirot, and 22 paths that related to the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And there is one 11th Sephirot that's called Dath. I will explain it later. That is attached to knowledge. So before I start speaking about the Tree of Life, I will just make a small comment, because there are 3 types of Kabbalah. When I say Kabbalah, most people think about the Jewish Kabbalah that began with Moses and all the religions and dogmas, and has everything related to the Hebrew people. And there's 2 other kinds of Kabbalah. The first one is called the Christian Kabbalah, that begins in the Middle Ages, when the scholars of Christianity began to study the Kabbalah, mostly in Spain and then in Italy. And then they adapted the concepts of the Torah to the Old Testament from the Bible, and they mixed it up even with art. So it became the base of what we call alchemy today, and then the base of what we call Rosicross and Martinism. And there's the third kind of Kabbalah, that the one I love. It is Hermetic Kabbalah. That is the Kabbalah that was studied by the Greeks, that was called Gnosis. And it was the basis for the Pythagorean schools, and it was the basis for arts and theaters, and it passed the stories with myths. Because as you know, the Jewish Kabbalah, it does not utilize symbols or images to explain that. So you have to pray, you have to meditate. We are the humans on the base of the Tree of Life, and there's God on the top of the Tree of Life. And you meditate and passively receive this these feelings, these benesses, and these powers from God. But from the Greek perspective, they see gods as the nature, and they attached it to gods. So we have a god of strength, a god of power, a god of wisdom, a god of health, a god of the sea. And as you watch the rituals and the stories and the theater that involves them, you learn what you are supposed to learn. And here in Freemason, we do basically the same thing. Our initiations and our rituals are based upon watching someone do something. And as the ritual develops, we understand some of the concepts, and then we learn from it. So much of what we get from the initiation schools is from the Hermetic Kabbalah. All right, so what's the Tree of Life? Before I get to the whole structure, I will explain the basics, that is its foundation. That's the concept of the day and night, or yin and yang, or light and darkness, or the opposites. That's the first thing that humanity saw when they observed nature. They watched that once the sun rose, they have to wake up and dig the soils and attend the cattle and tend to the children and grow and study and work. And when the night approaches, they have to protect themselves from predators and sleep and rest and regain their strength. So the first basis that's still the whole basis for all Oriental magic and Oriental mythology and myths and structure is the basic of Yin and Yang. And we have this represented in all mythologies, from the fish, that is a structure that is always in motion. Now, this is not a static structure. When we say yang, we say movement, and we say expansion, we say things that are moving and working and expanding. And when we say yin, we say things that are slowing down and thinking and absorbing and understanding. But as it is in motion, for example, in this lecture, I am speaking now, so I am yang. And all of you are listening to me, so you are yin. But we have a chat room here, and someone could ask me a question. And so we have this small point inside the yin and yang. Because if, for example, Brother Hasu asked me a question, I would have to shut up and pay attention to what he's saying. And then I would become yin, and he would become yang. And then I would think about what I know and what I could answer to him, and then I would answer him, and then I would become yang again, and he would become yin, and so on. So that's why it is represented mostly by fish that are swimming on the lake. Because if this energy of yin-yang stops, everything dies. And it's true for most things in life. And other mythologies use these relations like fire and ice, or the sun and the moon, or as we say, the chessboard player. This is a chessboard player. It is white and black. It is not gray, because it teaches us that there is a time to listen and a time to speak. And you must speak and listen to what is different from us in order to learn more. From this structure, it doubles from what we know as the 4 elements. And that's, I think, a little bit more known in alchemy. It's fire, water, air, and earth. That I would say. Fire is like the full yang, or the great yang. Earth would be about the full yin. And this in between would be the mind. So for the Greeks would be the soul, the mind, and the body. And the 4 elements that are present in tarot, in our initiations, in our rituals, in mostly everything related to magic and to hermetics. I will say a little bit about each one of them. The first one is earth. That is the basis of the tree of life. And when we saw earth, when we say earth in mythology, we mostly associate it with the creation of mankind. So when you talk about myths and legends and stories, we say that a lot of gods in a lot of countries, in a lot of mythologies, say that the gods created man from the earth. Now, if you go to the Bible, we say, oh, God created man from earth. If you go to the Aztec Hindu mythology, they created man from corn. If you go to the Greek mythology, he came out from the sea and threw rocks and created the Greek people, and so on. And what do you say about this? It's because we were born from a mother, and then when we die, we are buried. And one of the greatest things that we use from rituals since the early ages is the cave. And the cave is like, let's say, the earth's uterus. So in an initiatory process, they would conduct a brother to a cave. It's a place that has no windows, no everything. And he would go down there, mostly with mushrooms and magic stuff. And he would spend the night there. And then on the other night, the brothers would go into the cave and bring him to the light. and then he would be reborn. And the beauty of that is because since he is now reborn from the womb of the earth, there's no other issues about race, about country, about anything. Everyone that is reborn in this way become a brother to all the other brothers that are passed to the same rituals in the whole world. And this structure, as the earth's vagina, the earth's uterus, it goes to the present moment. And you see a temple, a church, especially medieval one, you can see a pregnant woman. So if you imagine, this is the Cathedral of São Paulo. And you can see that if you imagine a woman that's giving birth, you would need, here are their knees, their open legs, their belly, their arms, head, and the door, that's vagina. So when you think about a temple on an earth issue, you go into the temple and you receive something that I will speak a little bit about later. And then as you exit this temple, you're supposed to be reborn with something else, with something better, with something extra. And you can put this idea into many things, religions, the Freemasonry, universities, and all of that. You go into a certain place, you stay there, you gestate, and then you are reborn a new people. Which brings us to the element fire. That is the top of the tree of life. So if you have the bottom one, the lower sphere is the earth, the top sphere is connected to the element fire. That is the spirit, that is the will, there is telema, as Aleister Crowley said. And in all mythologies, we associate gods and the angels and the genies and everything with the fire. So we have Moses and Abraham and all prominent biblical figures. When they have to speak with God, they go to a burning bush. But in all mythologies, we have this story about people like Prometheus or Loki, who stole the fire from the god to humanity. So fire is often related to godliness and evolution and thinking and guidance to something more intelligent and higher than what we are now. And it's easy to understand. Imagine we are the first humans on Earth that ever seen the first fire on Earth. So we are like monkeys hunting an elephant, a mammoth in the middle of Africa. And there's a storm and a lightning, and we stumble across the forest and we say, we saw a burning tree. Imagine what would cause that in the minds of these humans, these first humans. They would look at that, and the first one would try to put his hand on the fire and it burning him. And the second one would look like and say, oh, of course, this flaming stuff is a piece of the sun that fell. And so religion began, the first religion of all. It was worshiping of fire. And then humanity began to understand how to create fire. And we have the temples and the first gods that were the gods of fires. And so on. And the first, we have the Lares and the spirits that protects humanity and all related to the fire. So what does impregnate Mother Earth is fire god. So in all mythologies and all places on Earth, we have the symbols about lighting or fire upon the heads of the crown, upon the heads of the people who are in ruling places. This is an Indian from Amazon, and he has the same structure in his head that the saints of the Catholic Church. But they are not connected in any way. These two civilizations, they have nothing to do. And several civilizations in the world who has the same structure, who didn't even communicate with them. They just use the same mythology because we live in the same planet. We are supposed to watch the same things on nature. No? So if you have our soul in the fire and our body in the earth, we have something around here that we can relate it to the 7 planets. And we can relate it also to the mind that is divided in two parts. One of the parts is the air, the element air, that is reason. For Pythagoras and the trivium, we have divided air into three parts. There is grammatic, there is rhetoric, and there is logic. The first one, grammatic, is associated with the air because it is knowledge that we speak. For example, I love I love a tale that I think it was Carl Sagan said that the book is the true proof that humans can do magic, because you pick up a piece of wood, dried wood, with ink blots on it and ink sigils, and you look at the symbols, and someone who died 300 years ago talks to you inside your mind. And when you put that piece of wood aside, you have knowledge that comes literally from nowhere. So it's magic. If it's not magic, I don't know what is magic. But grammar is the first part of this magic process. But it's the invisible knowledge that passes from one person to other through sound. Of course, it's not like Portuguese or German or Spanish, the grammar stuff, but also music, formula, and the drawings. So if I wrote a composition here and I sent to England, an orchestra in England would play my composition. If I design a shampoo and send to China, they would produce my shampoo. So this is grammar, and this is the stuff of magic and the stuff that we communicate. The second one is rhetoric. It's that when you put the grammar together and you build the word, and is associated to leaves, leaves from trees. Because the main mythology around here is Odin, that he sacrificed himself to the tree of life, and during 9 days he catches the leaves that were falling, and through them he created the runes, and with them he created reality. And today we have who controls the narrative, controls reality. That's even more powerful than grammar. And the main wars in yesterday were battled with guns, and today the main wars are battled with words and fake news and media control. And the third part of the element air is logic. It's when we took rhetoric and you put it in some sentences and structures that you convince others that what you are saying is logic and has power. And it is the sword, its representation. So, for example, if I want to sell you something and Hasu would want to sell you, for example, I want to sell you this blue pen, and Hasu wants to sell you the green pen. We could do like in Game of Thrones, and we choose a warrior each one and put them into a gladiator contest, and if one kills another, then you will buy my pen. Or we could argue. So I would say that my pen is better, it's cheaper, it's everything, and Hasu would say that he's better. He would sell more pens, and he would divide your payments and things like that. And we are like fighting with your ideas, like a sword fighting, but an ethereal sword fighting. And then if convince you, then with Stefan and David and Andrew would buy my pen or Hasu's pen. So this is the basis for politics, for commerce, for basically everything that involves lawyers and things like that. It's the base of our realities. Based on what I said today, now, we can understand better how myths work. So if I tell you the story of King Arthur, so far, it's the story of the guy who wants to be king, and also it's an initiatory story. The story of King Arthur is an initiation story. Because what does King Arthur do to become king? He put out the sword from the rock. Based on the elements that I said earlier, you understand that now, if you want to be the king, or if you want to improve yourself, you have to have the fire. If you want to make improvements in the society, you have to take out the sword from the rock. that means you have to study what you want. You have to dedicate yourself to the study of whatever you are doing. And then you will be able to fight. But there's an element missing. That is water. Because being intelligent and able to convince other people of doing what you want, it's not enough to make the world better. Because you could become an intelligent evil lord. And Arthur discovered that. The first thing that when he got his sword, he started attacking his enemies, and he killed an enemy in an unfair fight. And he broke his sword. So he has to take it to the dam of the lake, and then he put his sword back. And now he realizes that without love, and without the element of love, he would never become a truly king. And then he starts to pursue the Holy Grail. That is the main symbol of the water element. The Holy Grail would be perfection, but the Holy Grail is unattainable. In the story of the King Arthur, he pursues the Holy Grail his entire life and he never finds it. And how is that supposed to relate it to our lives? It's easy. Let's imagine that I am a painter. And then I paint a beautiful picture and I say, this is my masterpiece. So I think I have the Holy Grail in my hands. But then next week, I learn a new technique of painting. And I will look at my picture and say, I could do better than this. And poof, the Holy Grail is gone. And then I will have to go after it and paint another painting that is even better than the one I thought it would be my best. And now I'm pursuing the Holy Grail again. And then I say, oh, okay, this is my best picture. And then 2 years from now, I learn a new technique with gold that I look at my picture and say, I could do better. So poof, the Holy Grail is gone again. And the true paradox of the Hermetic searcher is that we are all searchers. We are all learners. We are all, I don't know if the English term for it is searchers. In Portuguese, we have buscador. That's the one who searches the Grail. And they are not the founders of the Grail, because the one who founds the Grail and say, I have everything I know, and I am satisfied with everything I know, is a very stupid one. You can never be satisfied with what you know. There's always new things to discover. The Holy Grail is always one castle out of your reach. And why did I put this here? Because before the Holy Grail was the Holy Grail, it was called the cornucopia in the Greek mythology. It's when Jupiter was hiding, and not Jupiter, it was, yes, Jupiter was hiding from Saturn, and he have a cabra, a goat, when he was feeding from it, and he was toying with the goat and he killed it. So they put his horns in the sky, and one horn became a thing that let foods and fruits and for the gods. And if you eat the food of the gods, then you would become a god yourself. So a lot of Greek heroes tried to have dinner with the gods. But they not everyone succeeded, but they were all trying. And then you would say, Marcelo, but this is also a fairy tale. And I tell you, it's not. Imagine that you go to college and you say a professor that is the best one in its field. And you say, whoa, this guy is great. I will study with him. And then you came with the master, you study with the masters, you follow all the masters. And then 20 years later, you are invited to the conference of the best of the galaxy to have a lecture. And then you sit at the conference, you look at your side, and there Professor Best. So now you are sitting with him. So if you feed yourself with knowledge, if you feed yourself with wisdom, you will become a god too. You will become wisdom too. So that's the main point of mythology and all these fairy tales. Huh? This cornucopia then became the witch's bow in the Celtic, and then in the Catholic one, it was transformed into the Holy Grail, and it was Christ and not Dagdas and things like that. But the brew become the stuff that Asterix drinks in nowadays. So I say, the gods, they never die. They just keep making plastic surgeons and being reborn. All right, so this is the structure of the Tree of Life. It was depicted this way because the first one you would have to improve yourself, and when you'd attach the grade of the master, then you would be able to help the community. So you would have the profane, the people who are outside the temple, the candidate, and then you have apprentice, companionship, and masters. And as you attain the master degree, you would be able to help the whole community. I'll explain a little bit of it later. And then there's the story of the magic tree of life. All philosophies and all mythologies, you have a magic tree that gives you powers if you can unleash its secrets. Now you have Adam and Eve, who eats the fruit of knowledge and are kicked out of paradise. You have the Greek Hesperida, that is the 12th work of Hercules. You have the Tree of Life for Odin, that he drinks from the well of the Tree of Life and becomes the most intelligent god. And we have the Joan and the Bean tree, I believe that's the name, that he has to climb up the trees and fight a giant, and then he brings back the golden goose. It's a goose that puts golden eggs. And we have the Christmas tree. There is a tree that has a star in the top, a lot of colored balls, and presents in the bottom. And we tell children, if you behave all the year, Santa Claus will bring your present. But we also tell adults that if you follow the way of the universe will conspire to help you. And then you, as alchemy said, you'll get the presents afterward. So this is the structure. Okay, so far, all right. So these are the structures, and here is the correspondence. Now, the Malkuth is the first, when you say bottom to up, but it's the 10th spear. If you ask a Jewish rabbi, he will begin to explain the Kabbalah to you from top to bottom. But in Freemason and initiatory orders, we often learn the Tree of Life from bottom to up, because we began as mortals, as humans, as profanes. And then we have to climb up all Jacob's ladders up to God. So this is another analogy of the Tree of Life. This first one is Malkuth. It's connected to the Muladhara chakra. I will not talk about that, but the 7 steps up to the Jacob's ladder, they are connected with the Kundalini and the expansion of consciousness and things like that. But that would make a whole new lecture. But the gods, let's go to the point. This 10th sphere is the sphere of the prosperity. It's called the kingdom. It's Malkuth. But it is the presence in the bottom of the tree of life. So why do you say that the presence of the bottom? Because to get this present, you must first enter the tree, enter the Temple of Solomon, or enter the adventure, present yourself to all the dangers, and in the end of the journey, the hero's journey from Joseph Campbell, you came out of this journey with the hero's elixir. So this is at the same time the first step and the last step. I usually say in lectures in the Freemasons that outside is where you really know if a person is truly a Freemason or not. Because it's very easy to go to the temple and say, hello, master, hello, master, hello, master. And in the outside, you are a shitty person. But if you are a true Mason, you will be seen outside of this, and your acts will speak for you. And how they are connected to these goddesses and goddesses of prosperity and richness. The first goddess that were associated with this sphere were like Inanna, Taweret, and Pachamama. You see, Chelanagig. You see, they are all goddesses of fertility. They are pregnant beings who gave birth to children. Because in the early days, when you have a village, what makes you rich is whoever has most people. There would be more gatherers, more hunters, more people to take care of the village. And then when humans discover agriculture, this goddess, they change to the goddess of agriculture, like Gaia, Cybele, Demeter, Flora, Persephone, Freya, because the true richness of a village or a people would be the agriculture and things like that. You also have gods of rich, like Apis, Kubera, Ebisu, and gods of dying and rebirth. That when you say that, even in initiation orders, you go to a temple, it's like a cave or it's like a mausoleum, that you die and then you are reborn. You can remember the third grade, the master ritual. You die and you're reborn. And we have several other gods that have this structure. And when you are reborn, you are kind of better than you are when you were dead. So we have like Saint Lazarus, that he was dead and Jesus said, awake, and then he became a prophet and things like that. I put also these things because since the superheroes and the characters from books and films are the new mythologies, they also drink from this structure. It's a universal structure. So we can call this the matrix. In the first step of the journey of the hero never knows he's a hero. Now, you should see Star Wars, for example. Luke Skywalker does not know that he's the best Jedi. He was born in a planet that was agricultural, but it was a desert. Harry Potter would be the wizard that would defy the greatest danger, but in the beginning of the book, he lives under a stair in a kind of a cave. And the Neo was supposed to be the one, but in the first step, he was just a low-level employee. So inside the Freemasonry, for example, anyone can become a Freemason. You don't have to be the chosen, but in your story, you must be the chosen. So you enter whatever is the temple. It could be a university, it could be a church, it could be the Golden Dawn, it could be anything that you put yourself into do in your life. It could be a Kung Fu dojo. It could be a music school. So everyone in our story related to the hero's story, because the Tree of Life is the story of all the humankind. All right? So the first step we do into Solomon's temple is Yesod. It's called the foundation, and it's related to the moon. This is the first step. That is the journey. So all these heroes, they enter this magic word through, we call in Brazil, experto. This is the brother who conducts the candidate in the ceremony. But we do also have a lot of other things who have this, like Morpheus or Hagrid or Sarah Connors or even the White Rabbit. And they conduct the hero into a journey or a quest. And this journey is the journey of self-knowledge. And we have goddesses of the moon who are also related into journeys, like, for example, Isis or Psyche. Now, Isis have Osiris, who is the solar god, and he's chopped off and his parts are sprayed through Egypt. And then she went into a journey to collect these pieces. Psyche has to find Eros. So she went into hell, into the underworld, and she has to face 4 main challengers that are almost impossible, and she does that. And we have several other hunters with the arc and the bow, witches, and things to do in magic. I will explain why the moon is so important here in this alchemy stuff and the Tree of Life. The moon, I will give you a spoiler, is just behind the sun. The center of the Tree of Life is the sun. The moon, when you look at it, it does not shine, but it reflects the sunlight, okay? But there are also lots of types of moon. There's the full moon, the crescent moon, the dying moon, I don't know how to say with the dark moon. There are all kinds of moon when you look at that. And that reflects when a student enters the university or enters any place of knowledge, he will be faced with a lot of teachers, a lot of books, a lot of scholars, and he will begin studying them. And then he will pick up a book and say, oh, this author is great. He will pick up another book and say, oh, this author is shit. He will pick up another book and say, this author has good ideas, but some of them are awful. Or this author is awful, but there are few ideas that I like. And the most authors you learn, the better you know yourself, because you know what you like and what you don't like. So understand the comparison. The moon does not shine because you do not shine yet. You will be the sun, symbolically speaking. But as you are not a master yet, you do have to see a lot of other masters and see what part of them will reflect upon you. Could I explain that? I think this concept is really difficult to explain in another language. But when you understand that, it's so beautiful. That's why the moon is the first thing that you enter the temple. So these are this goddess. Yeah, here's Iemanjá. It is from Umbanda and Candomblé. She's the goddess of the sea, but she's also the mother that nurtures everyone. So as universities and the Freemason and the orders, they are open to anyone who wants to become their children. And this structure will take care of you. And in the same time, it is the womb. So you will see that most of these persons here, they are the princes that are, they're the mothers, like the Vaki. And they will bear the child, they will bear the result of the union that I will say just in a few minutes. Okay. Now you have another step in the Jacob's ladder, that is Hod and Netzach, that we are connecting it to the reason and emotion. The Hod would be the apprentice, or the first step, that is the god that talks to the other gods. It usually is a messenger of the gods. We usually associate Hod with Hermes. But we also have the tricksters one, like Pan, Loki. We have the people who created things and write things, like Thoth, Imhotep. We have the people who bring the fires from the god, like Prometheus or Moses. In Brazil, we have the Exu in African religion, that he's also the protector of the temple. And it's a fun stuff because in Brazil, when you are in an Umbanda or Candomblé religion, we are about to open in the ceremony, we have first to ask permission for Exu to say if the temple is protected. And in some initiatory orders, we have someone, the vigilant, who before we start anything, we have to make sure everything is protected. It is very funny because the Freemason and Afro religion are never connected in any way, but also the rituals are almost the same. We also have in the modern gods a lot of scientific heroes or people who are intelligent or deals with robotics and phenomena like that, like this part of the brain. And the poet that I love to say about this. Next one is Venus or Netzach. That is the muses. That is the other part. When you look at the other side of the temple, you will see Venus and you will see the bright star. And now you will become love. And there are also goddesses of love and inspiration and the queens of the mythological gods and all these characters that are really emotionally into what we are doing. And in our personal journey into the Tree of Life, we usually say that you begin the journey and then the first step, you just memorize the rules and do what you have to do and things like that. And when you came to the second degree is when Freemason comes into you, is when you really feel the energy and the love and speak. David said almost the same, should ignore the difference. there are a lot of difference. They're mainly cultural difference, because when you say all these gods, goddesses stuff, they also they have, like, for example, the Grasas and the Musas. They are different, but they also have the same, how would I say in English, the same purpose. The same purpose. Yes, it's the archetype. They are symbolic archetypes. The other archetypes is something that you cannot even describe. But when you are talking about the symbols that we use in the Hermetic Kabbalah, we are appropriating this archetype to tell stories that we can use into our betterment. So when you approach all these stories, they all tell the same stories. The story of a hero who wants to be better at what he does, and he goes into a journey, and he faces dangers, and he finds friends, and then he perfects himself in the way that he can help humanity. So that's the main story. That's mostly the only one story that humankind tells. The other kind of friend that the heroes have are the emotional one, like Ron Weasley or R2-D2, or like Trinity, that is the female counterpart of Neo. The philosophical and theological difference. When you talk about the symbol, when you tell this story, if you put them aside, they could be even people like contradict themselves. Let's say something like that. For example, Osiris and Apollo. If you pick up just their stories, they are not connected. They are sun gods. They have some characteristics, but they have a main spirit that, how would I say in English? It pervades. It's inside its core. It's like, what's the function of this image? What's the function of this symbol? And then it's related to this tree. They're like, if I put Osiris in another place in the tree of life, it just does not work. It has a piece into its mythology. It has a presence in its story, and it has something that he does in the story that is done to tell us, the ones who are listening to the story, what is the moral of that story. And then we identify this image as ourselves, and we follow this. It does. I'll come back to this in the end of the presentation. Then we debate that. But what you asked this.
Yes, so all the questions will be at the end of the presentation.
All right, then we'll come to this. It's not that this doesn't matter, it's that they are different, but they join. When you say about the greatness of things, they are connected. They do not go against each other. But if you understand that we live in a single planet, all of them would be used to better ourselves. Not to say, oh, this culture is different than mine, so it's worse. No, they are all have their purpose, and they have the same goal. That's God. I will be there soon enough. The sun is the center of the tree. It's Tiferet, with beauty. It is what we want to become, the master degree, the masters of ourselves. So these are related mostly to the heroes. So it's Osiris, Apollo, Hercules, Dionysius, Orpheus, Buddha. Most of these heroes, they die on this journey, and then they come back better. Or they lose something, or you can see like Superman or Captain America, or Neo even, he dies and comes back. And as the sun dies and comes back, so are we. When we leave ourselves that were worse than we are now to the past, and we look for become better persons. Then we have mercy and Murphy is Chesed and Gevra is rigor. Gevra would be the gods of war, the gods of, the gods that gave us strength and the will to fight and the power to do what we are supposed to do. They are also the gods that bring us strength and bring us the tools to work ourselves in the way up to the tree. So we have like Horus or Ares, Marte, Thor, Pele, São Jorge, Ogum, and they're usually the warriors that come up with the main characters. In Star Wars, like Han Solo. And in an institution, it would be like the treasure guy. Why the treasure guy, so people ask? Because we have to organize the finances. Now, the finance of a temple is like our body. And if you have a treasure that is not rigid and like a battle plan, it will start failing to collect money and failing to pay the bills, and the temple will eventually ruin by lack of organization. So Gevura brings out these archetypes of organization. And the other one, the other side would be Chesed. That's planning, mercy, and all the gods that have once got the wisdom, but are also helping the one that are on the journey. So we have a lot of the godfather ones here, Zeus, Jupiter, Odin, Wotan, Poseidon. And we will also have the wizards that help the hero of the journey, like Yoda, Gandalf, Dumbledore, Merlin, Taliesin, and others. This one is the hospital. So the money that enters the community, it goes out the community this side. So this is the column of rigor, the column of severity, and this is the color of beauty, or the column of love. Then we have the invisible one, the Daf, that is called knowledge. That's what we try to pursue as a hero. It is also put as symbolically as the villain, or the monster, or the things that we are afraid of or trying to confront, like the dragon, or Voldemort, Emperor, Thanos, or Sobek, Thanatos, Saturno. And in some mythologies, it would be the three wise old ladies that even the gods are afraid of, because they know everything and all the secrets and all the truths of life and everything. But what is knowledge? In Telemann, we have a say for that, there's Abis, and the gods of the Abis. The knowledge is everything. It's what we pursue, everything that we learn, everything that we comment, everything that we read is knowledge. But not all knowledge is useful to us, because we will not observe all knowledge. So that's why it's sometimes referred as the Abis. What does we absorb is in Bina, that's called understanding. The understanding is the part of knowledge that we understand. For example, I'm trying to give this lecture, but since my English is not very good, I'm telling you about like 30–40% of the lecture that I would give in Portuguese. So I hope I could make a point of explaining to you everything that I would like to. But let's say that someone who's not very proficient at English is listening to this lecture and he does not understand half of what I'm saying. So even this knowledge would be even less understood. And in the end, if I say the same lecture to like 100 people, you would have 100 different understandings of what this lecture means. So in life is this way. We search the world, we go around this knowledge that is Saturn, but then the part that we observe is the part that is useful to us. It's usually the gods of justice, or the gods of rules, or the gods that establish the fates of humanity, like Shango, Justicia, Themis, Maat, Tyr, or even the gods that were on the dark side, or the shadow, like as Jung said. And then you help to understand the self and you. Okay, it's the top of the severity pillar. And Hokmah, who is wisdom, that is the closest thing to God's wisdom. That would be the gods of fire and thunder and the confusion and chaos and everything that is outside our boundaries. This lecture is very simple because I did not say a single word about the paths. But for example, this path is called het, that is fence or wall. That symbolically it says that a man's fence or a man's wall, a man's castle, is surrounded by everything that he knows. And you cannot take any decisions based on anything that you do not know. So everything that is outside your castle, outside your walls of understanding, is chaos to you. And this is a tricky part to understand how these three spheres connect themselves. Because you have the knowledge that you are always pursuing, and you will understand a part of it, but you also try to get the knowledge and the wisdom that you do not understand. And once you understand it, it comes inside your wall, and now it's a part of you, and you get a bit better than you were yesterday. So here we are. We have several archetypes that deals with thunders and lightnings and chaos and fire and things like that. And the last one is Keter, the crown, who is like God, or the command or everything from the Tree of Life. God and Ki, Allah, universe, Brahma, Virakosha, and the brain. We usually say that if you're an atheist and you do not believe in any God, even though the Kabbalah is useful, because it is like a structure that you can coordinate your lives and make better decisions based on it. Almost finishing. And this Tree of Life, it is composed of other trees of lives, and we go up and down it every time, everywhere. So if you are, for example, this lecture, I think was David approached me and said, "Oh, would you like to give this lecture?" I'd have to prepare it in English. I've never given a lecture in English, so I would have to prepare something, and then I would came here. We have to try the best time for everyone, the date, everything. And then it is beauty. That is, now I am trying to pass this knowledge the best I can. Now I am struggling with the grammar and my will to pass this message. And we are at the womb. And if it goes okay, there will be birth of a child that will, I hope, make everyone that listen to this a little bit happier or with a little bit more knowledge. But since this is 10 and 10 is also 1, is 1 plus 0, 1, each one of you who are listening to this lecture has a brain and has a feeling, and has all the ways of life, and has its beliefs, and has its culture, and has everything. So each one of you, from the same knowledge, will understand parts or things like that. Some of you will get what I say and get to better conclusions than me. Some of you will get this, once I told to an evangelical fanatic preach, and he said, "You are only talking about demons. Everything you say is shit." And I say, okay. And we have everything. And what you do not understand, go into your apes. And as we approach the end of the lecture, we say that each question that we ask and we get it answered opens 10 more questions. So the more you say, the more you know, the more you know that there are things that you do not know. And the paradox of the searcher is this one, that the more you study, the more you know that there are more things to know. And then the more you know, the more you think you do not know. So I believe that there was a philosopher who said, I only know that I do know nothing. I don't know how it is in English, but it is the top of the study of the tree of life is that. And it is also a guide for you to make better decisions. So you have a main idea. For example, where would I take my family to travel on vacation? I have to plan from a hotel in a city. I cannot choose to travel to a city that I do not know. So I can only make choices in my life based on things that I know. In this very mundane example, I could not take my children to a hotel in a city in Bolivia that I never visited. I do not know the name of it. I first have to know the name of the place, and then what's there, and then information, and then everything, and then I can plan. And then I can go down a step on the ladder, Jacob's ladder. And then I will have planning and resources. For example, I would love to go to, I don't know, the Caribbean, but it's too expensive. So I will have to plan everything according to what I can do. And if I can make all these steps right, I will have Tiferet. That would be the best vacations I can give my kids based on what I earn and the days I have free. And then we go to these vacations, and then we'll do these things. That is, I go there and I use the knowledge that I had this. So this is the messenger of the gods, is what I want to do versus what I really do. And this is my mood. Then I go to vacation and I start to worrying about everything and get cranky and get angry, and everyone is enjoying themselves and I am angry or anything. I will not enjoy anything. And from this joy of the poet and the muse, we will have the womb. And then we will have what I have really done here. And we can take this example that I gave you for everything, even making pasta for dinner. People think that the Kabbalah is something that is sacred and from the gods. It is, but it is also a guide to behaving life. So that's why I find it so fascinating. That's it. This is my book. It is Kabbalah Hermetica, and this is how you find me. It's deldebbio.com.br and Marcelo@time. Let me see. I think that's it. We can open to questions now. We have some very, very interesting questions about this culture thing that I think it is really important.
First of all, Marcelo, before we start anything, thank you very much. It's a fascinating presentation, very unusual. Obrigado, thank you. And
thank you.
Your presentation, in the way you trying to pass this message on, there is no difference in the language you use. It was perfect. I think all of us appreciated and understood the message. There was no need for apologies of any sort. For me, I understood as much as I could in my little brain, but what I understood and how you put it through was fantastic. Firstly, I'll open the floor and we follow the usual rule. If you wish to ask a question or make a comment, please raise your hand and unmute yourselves. Walter, you put a question. Would you like to unmute and ask it yourself?
We have several comments that are great here.
Well, I'm not sure if I have any really questions. Absolutely fantastic presentation. Absolutely adore it. I've been studying Kabbalah for some 30 odd years with Maggie Whitehouse and Kurt McNulty and a half a dozen other characters, but you are presenting a slightly different view, which is what everybody does when they study the Kabbalah, and I greatly appreciate it. I also just simply said that as results of this presentation, I have to revise 3 of my presentations because you've given me more material to add to them, including my favorite presentation on Harry Potter. But so I absolutely love it, and unfortunately I'm going to have to leave a little bit early, I guess in another 20 minutes. but thoroughly, thoroughly appreciated. And I love your visual images too, how you put all those together. Fantastic.
Let me, Kabbalah. I have, let me just see if I can find this archive to show you something. Where it is? Here. My connection is not very good, but that's it. I want to show you something. Share screen. Let's see if I could get this a presentation that I have, a Harry Potter and the Kabbalah. Can you see?
Are you piggybacking on my Harry Potter as a master mason?
Harry Potter is a master mason.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have every character here and the archetypes they use. Well, he begins his journey
absolutely
as an apprentice. I forgot the term in English. We call the reflection chamber.
Chamber of reflection. You're absolutely
the
right.
chamber of reflection is the closer of below the stairs.
Yep, absolutely.
And then Hagrid brings him into the temple, and we have these two friends. One is really intelligent, and the other is really emotive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then he have the warrior that guides and inspires him, and the full master that protects him. I put this so you can use all this. I will put the link here. I also have Star Wars and the Kabbalah. Star Wars is even more Kabbalistic than Harry Potter.
Well, of course, Star Wars, when they were developing it, was their advisor was
Campbell.
Joseph Campbell.
Star Wars is so Kabbalistic that when you have the Tree of Life, this path here that connects Tiferet to Chesed is called Yod.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in Renaissance, the painting that they used to paint Yod was the light green. And Yod, as you know, is the smallest letter on the Hebrew alphabet. So Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, who is the sun, he's the brother of Leia, who is the moon. And then when he wants to become the full Jedi Master, he has to go find an eremit who lives in the farthest plane, and then he trains him, and he is Yoda.
Totally
It's
agree.
very funny because when you get the correspondence with the tarot, it's the hermit, the Yoda.
Walter, you've got a soulmate here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Man, we are on so much on the same in the same channel. It's unbelievable, and I thank you.
Great. Thank you, Walter. I'm sure you'll make connections and develop something new between the two of you, but fantastic. Now, one of the things, if no one's raised their hands, I always said that every myth starts from a grain of truth. There's a grain of truth somewhere, and then it's built on by others trying to interpret what they think the grain of truth is.
They do, Russell. One of the first things that when I was studying Kabbalah was because I started studying with, I did the other way around. I'm an architect, and my PhD is on mythology and the study of comparative mythologies. So I was writing a book that was called the Book of Curiosities. That was kind of writing questions for kids. So how many people did Zeus shot with lightning and things like that? And I was gathering all these gods, and I realized that, oh my God, I realized what Campbell realized in several years, because that we have the monomyth. And Jung said that it was the unconscious thing. And then a brother said, oh, go study the Hebrew Kabbalah. But when I got to study with a rabbi, he said, oh, the Kabbalah does not have symbols. Because if you say that Gevurah is like Thor, you are draining the power of God. Because if you say Gevurah is male, you already chopped off half the power of God. So we do not use symbols.
Well,
But
well,
the Greek Kabbalah, it's not called Kabbalah, it's called Gnosis, but they do not use the tree. They use gods as people from plays, theater plays. He said, you can do anything you want, but now start looking at the spheres, the Sephiroth, as a bright sapphire. So it would be 1,000 shaped gem. How do you call a gem when, for example, the John of the Crown, that it has several faces? What do you
facets.
call in English? Facets. So the Sephiroth would be in the Hermetic Kabbalah a sapphire with 1,000 facets. So when I look at Ogun and I look at Thor, they are completely different. One is black, the other is white. One is African, the other is Nordic. And one is the thunder, the other. But they have the same grain of truth. They are the fire, they are the force, they are the warrior type. And so as you gather this from a multiple religions and mythologies and symbols and films and everything, you will get a small picture of reality as a big jigsaw, that every god and every tale and every fairy tale is a small part of ourselves.
Yeah, but in our minds, we think we're interpreting God as we see it.
We can't.
But first, we don't understand who or what God is. Because unless you understand the beginning, you cannot interpret the message. Sorry, Richard, you raised your hand. Please go ahead, and then I will comment further. Richard from India. Richard?
Hello.
Hi, brother Marcelo. How are you? Can you hear me?
Not bad, thank you.
All right. Hi, Hasu. How are you?
Yeah, all well.
I wanted to,
welcome, Richard.
All well, all well, all well. I wanted to ask you, you have put this together in, because in the beginning you spoke about Yin and Yang, right? And Yin and Yang essentially brings about the understanding of a duality, positive and a negative. You're masculine and you're feminine. But in this depiction that you've given, I don't really see your interpretation in that aspect of it. Because, for example, Bina, right, as you said very clearly, is the mother. But it focuses towards the matriarchal energy, right? Whereas as you go down to the other side of the tree, you enter in the patriarchal energy. Understand? So I got a bit confused with the images you were portraying, actually, because a lot of them are depicted with specific sephiroths in different ways, you know, but maybe not in that generalized form that you placed it in. And even that being, firstly, the sephiroths are built up into Midosh. Midosh is essentially a dimension, right? So these are dimensions, understand? And they are supplicated by light. So light has to come from the east, and then it slowly filters through, and then it slowly makes the sephiroths larger and larger and larger. And like the human body, if there is a blockage in the sephiroth or in any sort of blood vessel, then it doesn't grow and it becomes smaller. So the same principle, like for example, Gebera is a feminine energy, right? But Gebera holds such an importance.
Understand. We have feminine and masculine. There are no genders. That's why the rabbis do not like us to use symbols. Because if I say Gebra is a male god of war, there are also female god of wars. In India, there are a lot. You have Kali, for example.
Exactly. Because now you're going to step into Hinduism.
Yes,
and
I had to choose.
And everything whacks itself out of place then. All your lines all break and the plot falls to pieces. Understand? That's my point. No, but in Gebera, for example, it's very important, right? Because Gebera is where the breaking of the vessels occurs. I don't know if you've studied about the breaking of the vessels. So there is a point where nothingness occurs through the Tizim Tizum, right? So when you reach the Tizum, because for me, you know, all this was all well and good. My project was based on this and architecture. And in my project, I was looking at the facets of the way Sephardic Jews specifically designed a city and place certain buildings in the form of the tree of life to create a stone Torah made of a real life stone Torah with all the secrets built into the buildings and the designs and the placement. So it's the grand architect again. So that was my project, what I was working on. I'm on my fourth part, which basically now ends up bringing all this together. It's all well and good, you know, running up and down the ladders, right? But finally, we have to get to Keter and then Ein Sof at the end of it, right? So to reach Keter or Ein Sof, we have to only go through Bina.
Yes, Bina
Okay?
would
The
be
only way to
main mother, the main dark mother.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is a counterpart from the moon.
Again, you can't say dark mother also, because she is the primordial mother.
This lecture was written like 10 or 12 years ago. Since I usually do this lecture in like a Freemason open to all presentation. So they bring their kids and their wives, and I have to explain what do we do in the temple. Because we have some wives here in Brazil. I don't know if in other countries are like this, but some of the wives somehow they become jealous because their husbands go all once a week to that place. And what do we do in the temple? So this lecture was first designed to explain that we are learning, and their fairy tale. And I used a lot of Harry Potter, a lot of Star Wars, and things like that. But I had to choose if I really have to put examples in all the spheres. I would be like 200 gods for each sphere. I chose the most famous. But you are right. There are female. There's no gender in the tree. There's nothing like that. That's why the hobbies do not like when you use symbols. But correct. You are right. There are women. You can make a tree with only women, or only transgender. Even there are gods in India. Principally, there are male and female at the same time.
No. But that is the culmination. Understand? The androgynous person is the culmination of both the trees of both the yin and the yang becoming the yin and the yang. So you can't just have the tree in that form. There has to be a gender breakup. Or balance. Okay, you want to place it in the other way around and change the genders around, you can, to a degree, I guess, in a very theoretical manner. But the balance has to be there, right? Yes. If you don't have energy balance, you can't build the androgynous being that we're talking about, right? Yes. The Adamas, yes. Right?
Yes, if you get a feminine portion, this you have to make a male counter god. Yes, yes. It is a nightmare to get this lecture right, because there are so many examples to take from. I have to choose the ones that I think are easiest to pass the message. But based on what I said, you can build a tree of life from Indian gods, from a specific region. And
we have in India, we have the tree of life. In Egypt, we have the tree of life. In India, the tree of life leads to Patala. Understand? Yes. So there's a hidden. So that story now suddenly starts getting really interesting, no? Because when you step into that zone and then you get into the tree of life and you do, it becomes dimensional and then interdimensional. So it becomes a very big story, and then you have the four different worlds, and then they fit on top of it. How you get Jacob's ladder is not just one ladder on the tree; it's an amalgamation of multiple dimensions overlapping. This is very difficult stuff to explain. I totally agree. I totally get what you're saying. I like your lecture. Very interesting.
Bingo, I just totally agree with what you were just commenting, especially the idea that the tree is Jacob's ladder and that the four worlds are overlapping. Yeah.
Yes.
By the way, I have another totally talk where I relate the structure of the tree to all the various bodies of masonry. The symbolic lodge, be it York Rite or Scottish Rite, then of course the Scottish Rite structure in the southern jurisdiction of the United States, and then of course I have a whole series of lectures on the Royal Arch and the Tree of Life. So yeah, they're all totally
all interconnected. I'll show you another picture.
Yeah.
As a very quick example,
this is a poster. Right. Is when I took ayahuasca. And when I was doing all this research and things like that, I had ayahuasca and I went into a journey, a psychedelic journey, where I saw all these gods as images, and they were floating in the air, and I was traveling through them, and there were thousands and thousands and thousands of gods and goddesses and heroes and heroines and villains and monsters and journeys. And I was traveling around it like a stair. And this is the view that I have. That's everything, and it will get pulverized like a million gods and symbols and temples and architect stuff and comic heroes and everything like that.
But also you have to understand that different cultures have different ways of looking at their tree, right? So as you said, Kabbalah, Kabbalah. So you have to look at it from each individual section in their own individual area, because they individually interpreted it with their limited means of knowledge. And I say limited means because who is the original person of the structure of the story? We don't know yet, right? Because we can't confirm that the book was made from the burning bush. The burning bush didn't give us an IOU saying, I was the one, or, or Abraham was the one, or, we don't know all this. So this is all passed down knowledge that has been reinterpreted, sort of Chinese whispers. So everything's interconnected. It's just you have to find the right dot with the right connection and be very sure they balance themselves out. There are many obscure dots as well.
But let me ask you something.
It would be more like this one, I think. This picture. That's when there's a whole giant tree, and there's a Hindu, but also there is. I can write on this, I think.
This is a symbol of the macrocosmos and the microcosmos.
Yes, there are a lot of trees here. There's infinite trees here. There's infinite trees here. There's infinite trees here. There's infinite trees. It's the main archetype of the labyrinth.
Yeah.
So we have there's a tree with gods from Hindu. There's a tree from Aztec gods, and there will be differences. There's a tree of Norse god. There's a tree of Amazon gods. And they're all together like a colorful, brightful, unimaginable.
Let me ask, if I may ask you something. It's again something from the presentation and generally talking of Kabbalah. You talk of the spheres being the center of each of the spheres represents energy, a power. Now, what fascinates me is no one talks about the links. It's like talking about the ripe fruit on a tree without talking about the tree trunk and the tree branches and the leaves. Because they are as important in the fruit as the fruit itself. The fruit won't ripen, the fruit won't grow, the fruit won't exist if it wasn't for the branches and the stems. So, how does that sit? How do you explain those? Is there a specific way of describing the connections, their values, their powers, and their energies?
They connect. They are the paths. But if I was to lecture about the paths, it would be a 20-hour lecture.
Well,
because they are infinite. Because when you pick up two spheres and connect them, they have a structure of energy flowing.
But that's what
above the tree. Yes,
yeah, that's what
all these channels, they connect to this energy and they flow from one intelligence to another. And they have archetype, they have symbols, they have gods, they have heroes, they have events. And
I did my paper on the 22 steps. No, that took 200 pages. So, and I was being as concise as possible. So yeah,
well, see, in my simple mind, I think that at times we are like the consumers who go to the supermarket and pick up the fruit, and we are happy with that. It's ripe, the price is right. But to me, if I'm sort of talking in terms of the philosophical conversation that you are encouraging everyone to think about, is that I would want to go back to look at the tree itself, not the fruit. The existence of the tree. Why did it? How it starts, the seed, the soil, the plant, the water, the watering, the nurturing. So it's like our knowledge. How do we nurture it from the day we are born? You've got to nurture it slowly but surely. Then at a certain age in your life, you get to, you finish your primary school. Then there's the next stage, which is your secondary school. Then you go the higher, then you go university, then you do. So in a way, unless you know all the other bits of those links, those steps in between the two, how you get to that. I think to me, that's more fascinating. And one day maybe you might condense your 20 hours into an hour and enlighten us.
Hasu, the tree of life also is a representation of the planets, right? So these planets are a representation of the universe. And the story of the universe, do we know how it began? So we have to go back to all our ancient cultures, and that is the essential existence and creation of the tree of life, essentially, in its most basic root essence. But if you don't understand the 10 sephiroths, you don't really focus on that. No, you cannot get into the parts because the parts are so complicated. They're so different, because things can change and they mean, and the symbolisms and understandings become so varied. You get lost, and that is the journey.
Well, the nature of knowledge is very subjective. There's no.
Yeah, but that is the journey. Each person, that's our journey.
Yes, it's a journey. So there's no QED after each. Yes, I found a solution. Yes, I've discovered that.
There
is no
the journey has no end. The problem is that the journey has no end, because if you know, I know everything about it, it's impossible.
Yeah.
To know.
Yes.
Alan Moore, there's an English writer, he said that our knowledge is like the foam of the water of the sea when it comes to a wave and it comes to the beach and it makes this foam and spuma and it's foam. And then it goes back, and your life is that form, and the knowledge of the universe is the sea. So we have nothing. We have what, 70 years of life in one body with one mind. What is that compared to 8 billion views of the Earth?
Last comment, because I promised my wife we would do something. But look at the triads within the tree, and each has its own specific meaning as well. Maggie Whitehouse has written about that as well. But anyway, thank you ever so much. I have to leave, and a wonderful, wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Thank you,
Walter.
for your participation and your contribution. Yes, sorry. As I said, anyone else who's got any comments or anything else? And we could talk about this forever and a day. As I said, there's no end to it.
But Asu, if you think about 1 second, if you think about this, right? When the breaking of the vessel occurs, right, in Gebura, and expansion shatters, and multiple shards begin to create another universe, the very essence of the universe that is being created has got a secondary value now, because a new universe has come from it. And when we say the fruit of life, you see the fruit as something maybe for you or personal, or it's an individual. How do you not know the fruit of life is another universe being born? And that is the cycle. Beautiful, no? I mean, interpretation is a magical thing.
I think we are as human beings, we are sometimes blinded by the reasoning that as we have a brain and we think, we know everything.
Someone asked if he could get the Portuguese lecture with subtitles. This channel, the YouTube channel, I have conducted over 400 interviews. They're mostly Brazilian authors, but we put subtitles in everything. So if you use YouTube, you can subtitle and then translate to your language, and then I believe it will make more sense. I have done this. I have it recorded like 10 times in multiple different times, and we can find it in YouTube. This lecture.
I'll have a look. I do use translation.
And also with other people, if you like the Brazilian religions, Umbanda, Candomblé, Quimbanda, I have interviewed several authors. They are very smart, very intelligent people, and it's everything subtitled. So if you are curious about other religions and other things, just go to this channel and then enjoy yourself. We have several playlists, several Masonic lists too. And
well, we have a very good brother who joins us, but he's not here, from Brazil. Serbia, and he is very close to the religions and the Afro Brazilian religions as well. So he's a practitioner as well. So
Wow, great.
so we have a number of Brazilian, but yes, as I said, if you put the link on there, I'm sure that others will want to download the chat before we close this, so they can keep the conversation and the links in there. Okay, we've still got 9 viewers on YouTube, so your fascinating subject matter has kept them engrossed. There are a number of comments. There's a conversation going on, but Michael Williams, Kabbalah, as we know, is based on our points of reference. That Kabbalah is the beginning of the iteration of our solar system. The combination of 72 names of God and workings between the Sephiroth. So again, everyone has their view. Anyone who's done some work or read about it or interacted on a forum, I think is very much appreciating what you put down. Stephen Florian, he's here as well, but he's also on YouTube, so he's getting a double. He commented, "Thank you for this beautiful lecture. This is a topic which is not easily contained in the palm of one hand. Very well conveyed and communicated." Michael Williams talks about 50 gates and 230 gates are the parts.
The gates, yes, there's so much things to say.
Yeah.
We have the 72 angels. We have the 81 knots on the temple. We have the 99 names of Allah. We have the 50 gates, the 24 gates of the combo of the 2 letters is infinite. What I try to say is that they are all connected in this multiverse tree of knowledge.
And Michael Williams also said he was waiting for someone to discuss Zimzum.
There we go. Can we have some more in detailed information on Zimzum according to you with regards to this whole, like your perspective on the culmination of the whole thing? Maybe that would be a good, like just a 2-minute, input from your side as to what you think.
Well, maybe you might want to do a presentation in its own right. Richard?
Yeah.
I put in my email here. I would like to have you, Richard, in my channel, so you could talk about this view of the Kabbalah too. The Brazilian audience, they are eager to have this kind of knowledge, and they love and since we subtitle everything, it would be real nice. I put my email on the chat, so you just write.
Sure. I'll send you an email across. Absolutely.
Okay, so is there any comments, any further comments, any other observations, anything anyone else likes to add to this presentation? Everyone seems to be silent.
No, it was just fascinating, Brother Hasu. As a matter of fact, he has tied so much together so brilliantly that I was sitting here in awe, and there's nothing I could really add. So that's why I stay silent, except that I wanted to chit-chat with him afterwards if he had the time and ask certain questions, because there are aspects about what he touched on that were tangential but fascinating to me that I'd like to ask him about exploring.
Okay, it would be a pleasure. My email is on the chat, but you can ask David. He has my WhatsApp. I believe it's easier. So I don't know if you have a group, WhatsApp group.
Yeah,
add me, please.
Yeah, David is there, so I'll get David to add you into that.
It will be a pleasure. I really love to talk about this subject.
We are a group called Sapere Aude Plus.
I'm going to try to shoot you an email right now.
Okay, so Paul, if there's anything else you'd like to add to your comments, please do so. Otherwise, I will invite Brother Marcelo to make his final comments before we close this presentation.
Oh, thank you so much for listening to me. I really love to talk about the subject, and I hope it would make a difference to the one who listened there. And thank you so much for having me here.
Well, thank you for sparing the time, sharing your knowledge, and willing to share it further with those who have asked to connect with you directly. I think knowledge belongs to everyone, and your commitment and your passion for sharing it is admirable. Thank you. So, if there's nothing else, I will close this session, and I'll give everyone a few moments for them to download the chat if they wish to, because there are links and all sorts of other things on there. So if anyone wishes to download the chat, you can do it now, and I'll close the session in the next minute or so.
Okay, Brother Hasu, thank you for both of your lecture. Your lecture was lovely. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll get in contact with you. Thank you, Brother Hasu, for being
You're welcome. Yeah, it's good to see you.
useful.
It's good to see you.
Yes, and take care, guys. I'll take your leave. Bye-bye.
Bless you. Take care. I suppose in India it's coming on to midnight now. but thank you very much, everyone. And I hope everyone has downloaded the information they wish to. I'll close this session and wish you all a good day wherever you are. And look forward to seeing you again. Probably the next one is on Sunday, which David will circulate the information. In the meantime, God bless everyone. Take care and be happy. Enjoy life. It's one gift that doesn't repeat itself. Take care.